Chapter 19, One Dorm. As I got off of the bus from the modular and entered into R&D, all the officers were staring at me and asking my age. I was so small and looked so young they couldn't understand why I was sent here amongst hardened adults and not to youth center or a juvenile prison. They didn't know the judge rejected the recommendations for a youth sentence, which was somewhat unheard of at this time. I was given a bedroll and a goodie bag. The bedroll consisted of a blanket, 2 sheets, a towel, and a washcloth. The goodie bag consisted of a small toothbrush, toothpaste, a bar of soap, and a deodorant. I changed into a new set of Lorton blues as I was being assigned to a dormitory and given directions on how to get to it. They then opened the steel door and pointed down a walkway. Occoquan had 3 sides: Occoquan 1, 2, and 3. They were called 1 side, 2 side, and 3 side. 1 side had dormitories 1 through 5. 2 side had dormitories 6 through 11, and 3 side had dormitories 13 through 17. They were all designed identical with the same walkways. 1 and 2 were across from each other, and 3 side was in the back behind the chow hall. As I began walking down 1 side, long, burned, sparsely lit archway with a fence on 1 side and a number of open dormitories on the other, I saw around 10 officers running onto 2 side. Somebody had just gotten stabbed. Other than the officers jingling keys and loud boots, the walkway was empty and relatively quiet with just echoes of background noise. But every dormitory I walked past had people in the window looking at me and asking questions.
Hey, shorty, what dorm you going to?
Hey, young, what you doing over here? You center closed?
Hey, little man, you from uptown?
Is that Lorton? After a 5-minute walk, I arrived at the dormitory that I was assigned to. One dorm. I opened the door to a large room with a TV in it with around 30 men watching it. As I entered, it seemed like everything stopped and everybody was staring. My first thought was, oh shit, they must know somebody I punished in the streets. Then it was, shit, I may look like fresh meat. I hope Mike Tyson isn't in this dormitory. I heard stories about Lorton being loaded with a lot of good men, but it also had an outside amount of crash dummies, organ donors, and butt bandits. I was glad that I brought an ice pick from U Center. It was stashed in my stacks of mail and pictures from my girlfriend. Her words of encouragement was wrapped around my safety. In some parts of Lorton, officers didn't even enter the dormitory unless it was count time. But here, they had a small office in the front. I walked past the gazing men and into the office where the officer was located to find out where I would be sleeping for the next 22 years. There was 2 other inmates there and they all stared at me also. What the fuck is y'all looking at? I said to myself. My face tightened up as I returned stares towards the new strangers. The officer asked my age. I told him 17, and they all looked at each other and shook their heads collectively. I was given a cardboard name tag to be placed on my bunk, then was instructed on which direction to go in.
Go find a bed, then come back and tell me where you're going to be sleeping at.
I looked at him confused, but exited the office and began walking towards where the beds were located. I didn't want to ask too many questions or give the impression of naivety, so I walked past a community bathroom and a shower, then into a large open dormitory filled with mostly single beds lined up on an open floor like a refugee camp. All the beds had name tags at the end of it. The dorm also had a few bunk beds against the walls. I later found out that one of the bunk beds held a father and son. The son was up top and the father was at the bottom. Both had life sentences for different cases. As soon as I put my bedroll on an empty bunk and attached my name tag to the front of it, another guy walked up and asked my age. Why the fuck everybody keep asking me the same questions over and over? I said to myself. I guess I look young, but I definitely didn't feel like it. I felt like I was their age, whatever that was. I felt old. I told him 17. He looked at some other guys and they immediately went up to the officer's booth toward the front of the dormitory and told him, a little ass kid just came in here. The fuck is wrong with y'all? He's supposed to be in juvenile. Seat and all, old killer, or at least you son. Call the warden or somebody and get this kid out of here. The officer called me back into his office and asked, what was I doing there? I told him. He called the assistant warden who escorted me to his office. They attempted to put me in protective custody until my 18th birthday, in which I intensely objected to. I don't need your protection. I can protect myself. I was made to sign liability waivers to not sue the Department of Corrections if I were assaulted, just to stay in population. The waivers were specific to me being underage. I was then taken back to the dorm and he gave the officer my paperwork. He told the officer and one of the convicts that I was sentenced as an adult, and the judge felt I was too advanced and dangerous to be held around children my age, or at the youth center. They all turned and looked at me like I was crazy, but I saw pain and empathy in their eyes also. I was younger than some of their children. I was a baby. I was supposed to be in high school. I was supposed to be preparing for my prom with my little teenage girlfriend. I was supposed to be playing video games and sports with other teenagers, not in an adult prison amongst hardened convicts on my first conviction, or I should have at least been held at youth center. A few of them were also aware of who I was in society. The word quickly spread that I was one of the young twins from uptown that was known for getting a lot of money and gun busting. The respect from some came immediately. My reputation preceded me, but I still understood the danger of the position that I was in. Reputation only took you so far in life unless it was constantly being reinforced. A nice percentage of convicts in Lorton came from the 70s and the early 80s era. They didn't fully subscribe to the gun, so they didn't give a damn. They were mostly about knife play and knuckles. To most of them, most gun busters were really cowards without the gun who were easily exposed. So to be well respected, one had to be well rounded. Nice with the hands, nice with the knife, nice with the pistol, and nice with the mind. And he had to have a lot of heart because in reality, anyone could point a gun and squeeze the trigger. The bullet did all the work. But a puncher and a thinker was well thought of, and a knife pusher was well respected. With the knife, you had to be up close and personal. You had to smell the next man's breath and feel his heartbeat while you punched holes into his body. The natural instinct for man is to survive, so when you were up close and personal, you were potentially up close and personal against your own death as well. As you tried to kill him, his fight or flight instincts would automatically take over. But in here, flight wasn't an option. He was going to try and kill you in his bid to survive. Majority of gunmen turn to either religion, homosexuality, or drug use to escape the mental torture of living in these concrete jungles. I swore to indulge in none of it.